All right. So before we move further, I want to explain a couple concepts that's very important because without context of these concepts, it's going to feel very random what we're about to do. Okay. The first concept is the concept of the middle. Second concept is coupled motion, and then why the feet matters in all of the things that we do. So let's talk about joint alignment, right? Posture is unconscious. You don't have to think about it. If you're standing here and this is your default, that's your default. And you're trying to go to stand up tall, you're never going to sustain it because your body will always go back to your default. So the question behind posture and how to change posture is, how do we change the default position of how we live? So you can think about this concept here, A and B. Your nervous system is really good about finding the middle of anything. You just need to know where point A is and where point B is. Once you figure that out, you can take a very educated guess that this is the center, right? But this is where most people go wrong, because their perception of A and B is off. So their perception of center is actually off. So that's, for example, if you sit like this all day and then you come back to neutral, you sit like this all day, you come back to neutral, this is A and this is B, your default position will be closer to A. Make sense? So for us to recalibrate and have us stand tall regularly, we have to explore all of A and then all of B. And then once we do this back and forth, we feed the input into our nervous system, it will help recalibrate where the true center is. So that's how it works. Okay? Now, couple motion is a very important concept as well, because couple motion tells you that everything is interconnected. When one joint moves, there is a predictable manner for how another joint moves that is the most efficient. So for example, if I were to bring my chin back, I would want my sternum to do this. If my sternum goes like this, and I try to bring my chin back, it goes against that concept and it feels awful, right? This can be applied to everything. So a simple thing as bringing the chin back, sternum comes up, pelvis rolls down, femur comes in, and then now we go down to the feet, okay? Now, if we take a look at the feet and what it does and apply it to this, we'll start to see the big picture of how everything is lined up. You don't mind just moving the camera a little bit, I'm just gonna be over here. So, your feet has two positions. It has a pronated position, it has a supinated position, and there's a whole combination of the two. So if you can imagine, that whole A and B concept applies here too. So if your foot can supinate really well and only go like a little bit of pronation, and it supinates and go back to a little bit of pronation, it will sit in a more supinated state. And because of couple motion, that means this is going to change the alignment of this bone, it's going to change the alignment of this bone, and this bone, and this bone. So if you have your right foot that's more supinated, everything will be turned out a little bit more this way, and your body have to reposition to stay in yourself tall, okay? Of course, same thing for pronation. If you're too far pronated and you only come up a little bit in your arch, you're going to stay a little bit more flat. And of course, you have a combination of the two. You have one that's a little bit more arch, one that's a little bit more flat, and now you shift it to one side, and that's sort of your default. So what we try to do is we try to explore equal pronation and equal supination of the entire foot to help our body recalibrate everything from the bottom up. That all makes sense so far? Okay. So how do we experience this movement? It's not as simple as I'm going to dump my foot in, I'm going to dump my foot out. Not that simple. That's why like little exercises where you scrunch the towels, they don't really work because it doesn't respect the normal biomechanics of how bones move. So for a foot to go into a supination, we need a couple different things to happen. We need this bone, the heel bone, to drop down, turn in. And when this bone drop down, turn in, these bones need to be able to spread out. And simultaneously, this knee will slowly go forward and turn in a little bit because that's how it's supposed to happen. And when you go into supination, you need this bone to come back like this. This arch comes up like so. Now, what happens when any of this combination don't occur? Let's say you try to go into pronation, but none of this happened, you just dump over. Now this might be turning way too far to one side, and then the rest of your body have to adjust to that, okay? So wedges, where they come in, is to help you feel the ground differently, feel different movement in your feet differently. So if your whole life, for example, you've been doing this, and then suddenly you have a wedge here that encourages this motion to come back, and now you experience this clean pronation moment of the foot, your body's gonna go, ooh, where's this, man? This feels good, right? My glutes are working well, I'm more stable, everything just working well. And it's gonna adapt to this new position because of the detour analogy. It always wants to adapt to things that is more efficient. So that's what the wedges do. They aren't something I want people to rely on. Think of them like training wheels. You use them to feel the rhythm of the two wheels on the bike, but once you get that rhythm down and it feels second nature to you, you remove those training wheels. That's how we view it. Sounds good so far? Okay. So just from what I saw earlier, the way you move, it does seem like on the right side in particular, it doesn't stack up very well. And I'm just gonna see if we do something around your feet, does your RDO cleans up, does your reverse line start to clean up, all right? And if we have time, we might even relate that all the way back up to the shoulder blade and what that shoulder blade should do when one foot does one action. Yeah. All right? Here we go. So we can pause that. We're good.